Ivory Coast in 1999, there was a military coup. Tidjane Thiam was serving as a cabinet minister, and he found he had some stark choices to make. You're working in the Ivory Coast, you're a minister in the government, you're very active within the country. There's a coup, you're out of the country at the time.
Yes.
You decide to come back. Possibility that you're going to get arrested, and you do, under house arrest if I'm correct. Why did you go back?
I think in life, in the end, you have to think about the long term. I did not want to be a fugitive. Fundamentally, often you make decisions by deciding what you don't want. Right? So when I was thinking hard about that, I just didn't want to live the rest of my life as a fugitive. So that was certainly a big factor. The second factor was really I tend to be attached to my teams, the people I work with. Especially if you work very hard, which is what I tend to do by nature, you invest a lot of yourself in what you do, and people who accept to go along that journey with you do the same thing, make a lot of sacrifices, and that creates a bind. And I really felt bad vis-a-vis my team, the people who were very close to me, the notion that I would just, because I could, say, okay, fine, I'm out of this game, you're never going to see me again, was difficult. And thirdly, I'll say it, I thought the coup was wrong. I thought that certainly things were not perfect and a lot of mistakes had been made, but I did not think that the way forward for the Ivory Coast was to do something every African country had given up 10 to 15 years before. I think that the military are better equipped than the civilians to run the country. And I've always said the same thing. Soldiers can and should have political ambitions. It's possible for a general or senior officer to be head of state. Dwight Eisenhower was president of the United States. You know what? He got elected. Okay? Charles de Gaulle was president in France. You know what? He got elected. So any general in Africa who wants to be president can run. I don't like people getting to power with guns. Okay? Because if you're good, well, go out, convince the voters to vote for you. You don't become head of state by shooting people. It's pretty scary. I don't like weapons. I don't like the military.
But the new military leader, General Robert Gué, had plans for Thiam. So you went back. They put you under house arrest, but then they offer you a job.
It was less subtle, but it was more complicated. First, it was a very confused period.
Yeah.
I went back. I skipped a lot of details, but anyway, I was taken in the end to the general who had done the coup. He thanked me for coming back. He told me off about a few things he wasn't happy about and told me to go home. So I went home. He asked me to come back a week later. I came back a week later. And then he actually did offer me a job. He said, he offered me to be Secrétaire Général de la Présidence, which is a kind of chief of staff for the president. And it's an offer which I declined. And I did tell him that I did not want to work for a military regime.
And then you walked away?
He looked at me and he let me go.
But then you had nothing?
Well, I didn't have a job. I was certainly unemployed. And then after a few days, I managed to get out. And
I read somewhere that you've said that it was a very lonely time. 6 months you weren't, you obviously didn't have a lot of money or...
Anybody who's been in power and lost power, I think has been through that experience. It's very interesting. People are very pragmatic. Okay, it's kind of, the king is dead, long live the king. You lose power, someone gets in the seat, whether they got there legitimately or not, very quickly everything organizes itself around them. And I think, I have to say the coup was popular. People did not understand my position. My position was a position of principle. But sometimes elections can produce a head of state that people don't like.
Bad leaders.
Yeah. So what? If democracy must stop every time the urns have produced a choice that people don't think is ideal, you're going to come with the army and chuck the person out. It's just wrong. Right? A lot of so-called Democrats were applauding the coup, and I was saying, well, this is really, really short-term thinking, and it's very, very poor thinking, okay? Because it is bad for democracy, but in one of the few countries in Africa where there had never been a coup, there was a coup, and I was absolutely convinced that it was all going to go wrong, and there was no stopping it. Because in countries with weak institutions, once you've allowed someone to take a minister, a cabinet member, and make him crawl with his AK-47, that's it. That's it. It's going to happen over and over and over and over again. It's always wrong to build your power on military might.
And the implications are still being felt.
Because someone will always have a bigger gun than you. And you know what? There's always someone who's got bigger muscle than you, or a bigger stick than you, or a bigger baseball bat, and he can always break your skull. And that's why we have a rule of law. That's why we have civilization. Sorry, I get...
No, you get angry, don't you?
Yeah.
Furious.
Yeah. Furious. It's just unnecessary. Okay? I would say if we're the poorest, we're the weakest, we're divided. If on top of it we're going to fight each other, what chances do we have? Okay, I go to Asia all the time. You get to Bangkok, Hanoi, Manila, Hong Kong, Singapore. I challenge you to see a difference between Sunday and Monday. Okay, every 7 days in the week, and they use those 7 days to work and to produce. So if we spend our time fighting each other, whilst others are working together towards a goal, we shouldn't be surprised if we fall behind.